Fairhope Board of Adjustment meeting for November the 18th. I'd like to introduce our board to you.
Ryan Baker.
Donna Cook.
Anil Vera.
Kathy Slagle.
Frank Lamia.
Great. First item is approval of the minutes from October 21st, 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we've got two items under consideration. Our first one is BOA 24.13. It's a public hearing to consider the request of James and Heather Delap for building height variances. So, staff, will you give us a report on that, please?
Before you do, I need to step out.
Okay.
Excuse myself.
We
Thanks.
have one
Call me back
recused
when you're
by
done.
Ryan Baker.
We will. Just to kind of quickly summarize what we're here for, this was a carryover from last month. Originally, they were advertised for 3 variances. We have seen revised plans, as discussed last meeting, that takes care of the variance for the location of the accessory structure and variance of the wall and fence height. That is removed. The request has been removed by the applicant. There's a building height variance for the principal structure, and actually there was kind of 2 components to that, but as we discussed last month, there is a steep slope here and kind of precedent since the building height was changed. We do recommend supporting where you base your elevation on, I think there was almost 40, 50 feet of fall across this property, using the building footprint for that baseline height. So that is the only thing that is being requested right now, and something we supported from the front end. It sounded like the board was, but just to refresh your memory, this is the zoning map on the left, the property on the right, and this was the property. There was a few different things proposed. There is an access easement getting to the property. So this kind of shows the average elevation. The lowest point is 11 feet. Highest point is 95. What's shown is the property within the setbacks. So, and this is something from 2017, I believe, when the building height was changed. 2017, 18 in the zoning ordinance. And we've acknowledged that that didn't take into account steep slope lots through the planning commission, I think even once here and even with the city council. And we are working on some clarifications on that and what to do on steep slopes. So this is not out of the norm on lots with this much fall. That was the current setback or current height limit of 30 feet. They will meet that. And to bring up this clarification, the vertical distance, how we measure that 30 feet is from the average natural elevation of the lot to the mean point of the building. So all we're asking for is, instead of that saying average natural elevation of the lot, we're going to say of the buildable area. Everything else stays the same, and should, be aligning with what other properties along the area are falling under. So this one we did recommend. It was the other 2 that staff had problems. That kind of shows the building footprint as proposed. It doesn't take up. You can see the setback lines. They're kind of faint on this plan, but they go out to here. There was some geotech that said you can't really get kind of south of this green line. You don't need to disturb at all. But you see there is room within the buildable building area, within the setbacks. So nothing's crossing a setback, and we're using the elevation of the lot. The retaining walls were removed, request was removed. You saw some of those wall heights higher than 4 feet. And the accessory structure was actually attached to the house in the current plans we're looking at. So the garage is attached to the house and still meets the height limits with this. So with that said, we do recommend approval of that adjustment for the building height definition. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to come up and say anything? Okay. We'll open the public portion of the meeting. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak for or against? Okay, we'll close the public portion. Board members, do we have a motion or any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the building height variance of the principal structure using the natural elevation of the building footprint.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second
Okay,
motion.
we'll take a roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Our second order of business is BOA 24.16. It's a public hearing to consider the request of the applicant Apex Contracting Services for a 23-foot front setback variance and a 25-foot rear setback variance and a 5-foot setback variance on the property zoned R2. The address is 258 Equity Street.
Yes, sir. Give Ryan a chance to sit down.
Thank you.
So, I'm Mike Jeffries with the city of Fairhope. As you said, says the applicant is Apex Contracting Services. It is for Zachary Bell. He is the owner. It is for his personal house. It is requesting a 23-foot front setback variance, a 25-foot rear setback variance, and a 5-foot side street setback variance at 258 Equity. The property is zoned R2. On the screen, the left is the zoning map. You can see everything is zoned R2. This is down here close in the Fells Nichols area. On the right is the aerial. There is an existing house on the property. The lot itself does not conform to the R2 standards. It's approximately 7,400 square foot, which is less than the required 10,500 if you were to come to subdivide an R2 lot. Currently, the lot does not have the depth that most lots do, creating a very small buildable area. Once you apply the current setbacks, there's about an 18-foot by 38-foot buildable area that is left. The house that currently exists is a non-conforming structure. On the screen is the dimensions table with what those R2 dimensions are showing. So it's the intent of the applicant to completely remove the principal structure and the accessory structure that is there and rebuild. And as you guys know, the new structure shall conform to the current zoning ordinance unless a case for a variance based on the following criteria, majority of that being the size, shape, and topography of the lot. On the screen is showing the current setbacks in red, and the gray shaded lot behind it is the existing building and carport that is there. Like I said, you can see the existing building is non-conforming closer to the rear and closer to the front than allowed. Real quick, this lot is a lot and a portion of another lot, and it's the south portions of all of those lots. So this was somehow deeded over throughout the years. It was created, the original lot's created in 1911, so a replat is in the process of being redone as well to combine that lot line that you see is saying hereby removed. So we're looking at this as if it is the one lot, and the replat's a requirement to combine and get rid of the historical lot line, making the front White Avenue and Equity Street being the side street. Because of traditionally, these lots did front along White Avenue. I'll tell you that our zoning ordinance, and typically the narrowest dimension on a corner lot would be the front. So to clear up the reasoning why you're seeing the front on the wider portion is that historically, all of these lots fronted on White Avenue. So to not change the character of the neighborhood, we're keeping that front orientation the way that the lots when they were originally created were.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
if it was the other way around, would it change the area of buildable area in any way?
It would affect it by about 6 feet.
Okay.
You would end up there because the lot's almost square with the dimensions, but we would still be here with a request from the applicant.
I understand. I was
on
just
that
curious.
basis.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. The next on the screen in yellow are the proposed setbacks. The blue outline is a proposed building footprint that the applicant provided. Kind of in the green is where the building setback line and the proposed building are going over. You can see that it is almost in the same spot on the north side for what would be the rear, and it extends out slightly closer to White Avenue on the front and extends closer to the Equity Street side, which is a side street. As indicated, the lot is an irregular shape. It is non-conforming, it is smaller, so staff, would support a minimal variance, but we feel that the applicant is requesting more than what can be supported at this level, with almost over half of what the setback is being requested in that variance. So therefore, staff does recommend denial for the front setback variance. Staff recommends denial for the rear setback variance. Staff does recommend approval for the side street setback variance. Now, I made it clear, although staff is recommending denial for that front and rear, it's for those 23-foot and that 25-foot request. Staff is not in opposition to some relief from potentially the front or the rear if the board sees fit. And the applicant, Mr. Zachary Bell, is with us this evening if there are any questions for him, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on behalf of staff.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'll ask the applicant to make a presentation for us.
So I have some pictures here of the plans that I have, and I think I have a suggestion on how to alleviate some of the big requests. If I show it to you guys up there. So on the front side here, there's going to be two pictures back and forth between them. Cutting the garage at 10 feet.
And I would suggest, I wouldn't look at the house plans in too detail because the board is not approving a house plan. We're just would be approving a setback relief, which the house plan would not necessarily have to follow what he is showing you there. So if he has some additional relief and he wants to alter the dimensions that he's requesting, I don't think you don't have to go through all of the showing what the house plans and what those are, because that's not, doesn't hold any weight.
Garage about 10 feet, shorten the porch about 6 feet.
Have you talked to the city about the new plans, about whether they'd support that?
We haven't talked about specifically about it, but we have talked about talking about it. I just wanted to take the plan that, I'm a contractor, so I got somebody who designs these and a bunch of other ones for me, so it's no problem to cut this down or cut that down. This is my first time doing it for the city of Fairhope, so I just kind of wanted to see what I was, up against here.
Well, and I do, I think our staff has done a good job, and I want to make sure, because we have never spoke, so.
Right.
As Mike said, when we give a setback, we're not approving a plan. So, let's say you got this approved and sold it, well, somebody can go out and fill the whole lot up to
Right.
that line, even though your plan's not. So that's one of the concerns that we.
And I think the footprint, I think the number is like 37% of the lot, and I think it's like 36% and some change, the footprint that I have there. So cutting it down even more would put it well under that 37%.
When you're talking about cutting it down, so how would that change the dimensions of the setback requests that you're asking for? Right now, you're asking for 25, 23, and 5.
Let me make sure I don't misspeak. This one here is 23. The 23 would turn to 13, and then back to 25. 25 would turn to 19.
Can y'all display the site plan again, just to maybe make it easier for us to see and understand all that?
Which one?
Sorry.
That one probably.
That one's probably the best. And that's where my current house, it sits right there, right now.
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion that we table, this is just my suggestion, we table it for this month, because if we vote on it and you deny it, then you can't come back for a year, right? So can you sit with the city with your new plan and see if you can get them on board with approving it, and maybe put us back on next month's agenda and look at it?
And let me just ask the boards, because this is one thing that, I think you can. I think it's not something we want to do all the time, but, there's certainly a challenge with this lot. You can, give a variance. We need to be careful how we do that with a certain exhibit if we're going to limit it based on the site plan. So if there's an opportunity to do that, would you be interested in that option? We'd have to have that site plan for you at the next meeting to
Yeah.
a point, and
Yeah.
that would have to be
Yeah.
met.
That's what I'm asking, I think.
And that exhibit be approved as a condition is what that would look like. Either that or coming up with just a setback that I think currently can live with, and then we can support as, 20 years from now as well.
Well-
Because it runs with the land, Mr. Bell. That's,
Right, I understand. What is the setback that we think we could live with according to you guys?
I think you would need to show them your plans and let them evaluate
Yeah,
it.
I mean, we've got a lot
Yeah.
of things we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah.
Kind of lining up with the neighboring houses is certainly one of the,
They're gonna need to review it.
And have you considered using the structure that's there, or is it it can't be saved?
It's, the attic is full of mold and the electric is not up to code. It would have to be gutted and it's sitting on it's not a slab. And underneath it's rotten, floor's rotten through too. It's gotta go.
Okay, because you could go up if you want the square footage, and it looked to me like there was one area where you could build out that would go along with the setbacks, but
It would cost a lot of money to bring it up to code, and I think actually the studs in my house are still on 2-foot centers, they'd make me tear it down anyways, because they have to be on 16-inch centers now. So, I don't think there'd be any way to save it. It was built in like 1970. is
and
when it was
we
built.
actually do not allow even expansion of a nonconformity vertically.
oh, okay.
That
Sorry.
would probably be
The, and I think there's a follow-up with staff like Frank suggested, but, I don't know if, I think there's two different questions. One is it tied to a specific site plan? Which I didn't think that this type of thing we could, but that's something y'all could direct. The other one would be just, what's the comfort level? I mean, this is, what's shown here is like 75% of the lot becomes buildable area.
Right.
It's just not a viable long-term solution. So what is something that's more, it's obviously the current shape does not allow it for enough buildable area. I think everybody probably agrees to that statement. But what's shown here is way more than what should be allowable on a lot. I think that's the issue at hand, so there's the balancing
a lot
act.
of this size. I mean,
Yes.
there's a limit of, lots are by design limiting factors.
Right.
Size, shape of a lot.
And
And the unique thing about this lot is not necessarily the size, it's platted that way, it's the angle of the street that's an acute angle,
Yes.
It does limit some things, but, just the garage poking out that, there's some things that can be designed a little more compactly. And certainly the scale of the house should fit within that size as much as possible. That's the things I think we're looking for to be worked with.
Do you plan to keep the trees that are on the lot?
One of them just the one has to go, because it's literally right in the center of the lot. My house currently is almost, they built like an extension of the house around it, the tree. So just the one,
So that's the one on Equity?
yes.
Okay.
And there's another one on Equity in front of it, but it won't have to go. Obviously, I'd like to get through permitting and build it, so I didn't know if is there a number that you guys had in mind on the front and back that you're comfortable with giving up, or no?
at this point, up to the board on their comfort level of a front and a rear setback variances, or a happy medium of how much of the front yard is being left. I do not know what the houses along the adjacent side, where those line up at. I don't know if they're at a 20 feet or at a 35 feet. I know we have a administrative setback variance that we're able to do at the planning director level, but it can be for no more than 5 feet. So you can reduce, in this case, would be reduced down to a 30-foot is what we could do at the staff level. Now, I believe, staff would support more than that 5 foot due to the narrowness of this lot. It is just to what degree are we going to do the front and the rear? Do you give more for the rear than the front to leave that front yard and the streetscape looking more open as you're going down is kind of the question. You know, typical lot in this area is 132 foot deep. This lot itself is at 88 feet, so he's losing approximate, usually would be about 62 feet of buildable depth as opposed to the 18 feet that he currently has. And this one, you know, there's not a clear answer of, hey, we support 10 feet, we support 15 feet. Where that lines up because of the multiple sides to this variance that we're looking for, a front, a street side, and a rear, of where can you put those building setback lines that make the most sense and that are going to grant the most relief without going above and beyond what the minimal that is really needed to build a house on the lot. Not every lot is meant to have a large house on it. Some of these lots, are meant to have a cottage-sized house.
Because this setback here, this 35-foot rear setback would eliminate like 40% on the lot. Because you're talking about 88 feet, and you have to come 35 feet off of that. It wouldn't be a house that's buildable, and so my house is on Equity, but my neighbors that are on White, this house here without the garage, it will line up with theirs. The way this plot is designed, it would shove it all the way to this side, but it could only shove it so many feet because this, what is it on the front? What's the setback?
35.
35, we're left with 18. So, and that, it wouldn't be a reasonable spot to be able to build a house, 18 feet. So I think it's just,
And I just telling you what the ordinances say.
It just seems like
Non-conforming
it's
lots and structures are kind of.
zoned incorrectly to me when you look at having 18 feet to build on a lot this big in Fairhope. It just seems like it's zoned incorrectly.
And the zoning on it is not incorrectly. It was, when this property was probably zoned, the lot was not this size and shape. It was actually smaller than what this was. This is a portion of one lot, or this is one lot and a portion of another lot, and it's the southern 88 feet of that. So throughout the years, as we know in this area of lots being combined and being split down, the previous owners that have been here, this is what we have been left with. And it's a non-conforming, so what the zoning is doesn't necessarily relate to it being incorrect. It's a lot that was created prior to zoning existed in the city of Fairhope. So it's, as with every other lot in the fruit and nut that's 66 by 132, even larger, those are still non-conforming lots, but you can't say the zoning is wrong. It's one of the zonings that's the closest to match what that actual dimensional requirement would be for a new subdivision.
Maybe
And
it's
when
not
those-
wrong, but maybe this lot just wasn't considered when the zone was done.
Actually, when these lots were platted, the standard in the city was a 40-foot front setback. That's been reduced through the years, so it would have, and I believe there was corner lots had another requirement as well.
I know this
What
not,
is this survey on the screen at least doesn't show the neighbors, at least like you said on White Avenue. Do we have any idea of where they're located? Like, you just talked about that, I'm just curious.
it's
If we,
close to where the existing house is. The front of their house is right there in line with the existing house. So on this side, well, for you, it's the other side.
but I guess if there's, I'm not here to tell you what you need to do. I think that you're set for, I think you need to get with them about it. But I think that you might want to bring them evidence of what other things surrounding are as a means to discuss how to get to a place that makes sense as a justifiable reason of how we might be able to approve something. Because right now, there's nothing for anybody to work off of.
And I think it's
Except
worth
for what you want, which is not necessarily a reason to approve a variance.
mentioning too, and I know Mr. Jeffrey said, when me and him talked, this doesn't matter that much, but if I did cut it down 10 feet, I mean, my garage is 41 feet from the road. Pretty good distance.
Mike, would it help at all, or is it ever done to change the address to a White Avenue address? Does that Is that a possibility?
The address wouldn't affect.
Only about 6
Wouldn't-
feet.
wouldn't
Well,
affect
it
this- doesn't
changes
change the
front and
setbacks.
back.
You would have to change more than that because our zoning ordinance defines what the front is. So it's based on the narrowest dimension of a lot.
Not, okay.
I think the issue is that we said most of these lots are what, about 130 feet deep, and mine's only 88. So either way you put it, I'm gonna get squeezed
It
somewhere.
does. Okay.
And I mean, I don't know, have you talked to neighbors about this plan?
Oh, yeah, yeah. My neighbor, the only neighbor who's next to me is, right next door, Jeffrey, and he doesn't have any problem, because it's gonna be in the exact same spot that the house is in now. And then to the right of me, there's, if you go up Equity, the same guy who owns the big, large lot right there,
Yeah.
there's a lot next to mine that's like super skinny, and he owns that one too. So he's probably 100 feet away, probably more than that. I should have taken some pictures, but I didn't think to do so. So
Is that
and
not
then
the garage down here on the?
on this side right here? Yeah. And that's what I was.
That's 41 feet from the street?
Well, according to this, he's got
I mean, that's the variance needed here, so 23.
from the street. He's got
You're
just
talking about from the
That's the
paved area.
yeah
asphalt.
from the
Yeah, but
asphalt.
we're based on the.
So on Jeff Freeman's side right there, the house will be in the same spot, and where I butt the neighbor with, there's nothing there, just a lot, the house would be in the same exact spot that it is right now. The only thing that would change would be this garage would come out a little bit farther than where my carport is now, but I'm suggesting to cut it down. So it actually would be less of what the carport is right now.
But you would face it towards White Avenue, right? The house?
No, I face it
No.
towards Equity.
Okay, all right, I'm confused.
I would like to go back to what Frank said and have you get together and go over the plans and modify them or whatever you have to do so there's less variance asked for on the dimensions.
I got you.
And then we'll look at it again at a future time.
All right.
Make a motion to table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion tabled till December.
Ooh, December.
Indefinitely.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out, yeah. As soon
Yeah.
as we can work, we're probably gonna be pushing it to get on December.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
might be.
we will work with Mr. Bell and.
We'll
see as
just
soon as we can
table
get
it.
you.
And table that till y'all can meet together. Okay.
All right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Is there any new or old business for the board? Okay, our next meeting will be December the 16th. Okay,
And the hotel is on.
It is, just to give you a quick update, we haven't seen any revisions. We did ask, y'all know our schedule. We have to put together staff reports, things like that. So we did next Wednesday. So Wednesday at 9 a.m. is what we need. We need to get everything back in so we can prep that and
Have they been talking to you about it?
we haven't heard an update. I know that at least when that extension was requested, they were working with some, not city staff, on getting some answers, potential answers. So we haven't heard anything. So we, I don't know what the request is. If we get something by Wednesday, we'll be reviewing it and prep to see you in December and discuss. I don't know if they can't meet that deadline, do they ask for another extension? Would certainly, because it was specifically asked for an extension for 2 months, December is that deadline. So right now, we're working through, and our communication stated, if we don't get anything back, we're gonna be in a tough position because we're gonna have to base it on all information we had from 3 months ago. So we'll use the same staff report in that scenario, and of course, as you know, that's recommended denial. So
Is there any other things on the agenda?
we
for
do
next month?
have
Okay.
several agenda items.
4, okay. Okay, great. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
All right, thank you. We'll see you in December.
Thank you.
Got that out.